But I also want to bring up this news that people probably know. Legendary singer, actor, and activist Harry Belafonte has died at the age of 96. What should people know about him and what his historical significance is?
His historic significance is profound. To quote the title of a popular 19th century US novel, to a certain extent, he was the last of the Mohicans. What I mean by that is that Harry Belafonte established organic ties with the US left. He confessed openly that Paul Robeson, the late artist, actor, and activist, who
you've of course written a book.
Yes, who was persecuted by the US authorities. In fact, this ties into the coming story we're going to discuss about the indictment of the African People's Socialist Party. That is to say that Paul Robeson touched a red line when he cast doubt in 1949 as to whether Black Americans would be on board with regard to a nuclear war with Moscow. Paul Robeson crossed the red line when he was involved in a petition to the United Nations charging the United States with genocide against Black people. That led to the snatching of his passport. His income plummets from the 6 figures to the 4 figures. All that time, Paul Robeson was accompanied by a young Harry Belafonte, and to an extent, I should add as well, by Sidney Poitier, who was Harry's long-term friend and comrade. And then Harry Belafonte, after he became wildly popular, one of the best-selling musical artists in the history of the industry in the United States, he began to fund and subsidize the movement of Dr. King. In fact, if you want to understand how Dr. King in his 20s and 30s could zip around the country and around the world, you need to look no further than Harry Belafonte's checkbook. So when he passes, which he did today, it's an enormous loss. It's like a sequoia that's collapsed in the forest.
Someone in the comments asked about another book of yours, one that I haven't read, but I actually really want to, because he thought it was relevant to our discussion. Class Struggle in Hollywood, 1930 to 1950, moguls, mobsters, stars, reds, and trade unionists. What can you tell us about that book?
That book came out a few decades ago when I was living in Southern California, and it deals with labor history in the film industry. It's no accident that Hollywood has produced some of our most stalwart leftists. Recall that Paul Robeson himself was an actor. Harry Belafonte was an actor. If you look at screenwriters like Dalton Trumbo, who wrote the screenplay to Spartacus, one of the most powerful anti-slavery films ever produced, he was also a funder of the Black Panther Party, for example, and was also one of the celebrated Hollywood 10. That is to say, the screenwriters and directors who were, quote, blacklisted, unquote, because of their politics. And so this book, Class Struggle in Hollywood, deals with strikes and labor unrest in Hollywood by below-the-line workers, as they're called, painters, set decorators, etc. And of course, as you know, the writers in Hollywood, as we speak, are about to be on the picket line because they're really being cheated royally by the studios, and they're raising their voices, and good for them.
And anything else that you want to tell us about that you're working on, or any final thoughts, because you've been so generous with your time?
Well, you may have inferred reasonably that I'm working on a book on the Black Panther Party right now. And I'm probably going to write it by the end of the year, and it'll probably be out next year. It's dealing with the Black Panther Party in Southern California. So therefore, I'm dealing with Dalton Trumbo. They got a lot of funding from Hollywood. Jane Fonda, for example, her then husband, Tom Hayden, for example, Bert Schneider, who produced this powerful anti-war documentary about the Vietnam War, was probably the major funder of the Black Panther Party, for example. So that all that will be in this next book. And of course, it'll deal with the Angela Davis case, since she comes out of UCLA, as you know, and was fired because of being a member of the Communist Party, and then is arrested and was facing the death penalty for supposedly being implicated in a courthouse shootout about 50 odd years ago. So it's a large cast, and I'm looking forward to writing it.